All right, guys, Luke here from 2029C, and I'm joined by.
Heitner from 360X.
And Adam from Team 229B.
And today we're going to do a match analysis of the Mall Signature Events R16 1-1. And let's go with the odd on first. So, I mean, you guys are both here actually on this Red Alliance here, Seed 1. So, what do you guys think about this Auton here? I mean, I know that like
No,
360X didn't the Auton didn't run because of a field issue, right? Which is really disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um, I don't know if you want to talk about it.
uh, yeah. Our robot got, what, 4 rings? That's not too bad.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
not too bad.
Unfortunately, they had 2 top rings, so they won autonomous.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, Adam's Auton hit. I mean, that's like one of the big reasons we picked them. We saw their Auton work like 5 times on the practice field. So I'm like, okay.
yeah.
I guess we should have tested our Auton. I mean, with the field controller. I don't know.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So, what do you have just like for the newer teams here watching? Like, what do you suggest them to do in a situation like this, or do you even prevent a situation like this from ever happening?
I mean,
Um,
I don't think there's anything we really could have done to prevent it. I don't know if you want to say something about that.
yeah, just, hope that the field controller doesn't mess up.
All right. So, like, what do you think you guys could have done in this match? Let's go with the match. What do you think you could have done in the
Yeah.
match to like win the match? Because it was still like it's definitely winnable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
100%.
think had we realized how much, like, it just didn't fully click in our heads how much auto was, and like we didn't
Yeah,
realize we were losing.
I agree. I mean, I think we had lost Auton only twice the entire tournament. And then I think Adam, I don't, how many times did you guys lose Auton?
I think we lost quite a bit, but we just
Oh,
like,
really?
I don't
Just
know.
locked in.
I don't know. I think one of the big things we did here was like we lost, or obviously we lost Auton because didn't run, but I think we kept our heads up. Like we went into the match and we played pretty well. I think like this switch was really good. Um, it was
Yeah.
pretty well coordinated.
I think
Um,
I
I
noticed that
guess
like I feel like because I remember at the end of the match that this goal was still in the corner, but the filled one wasn't in the corner.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think we
like in our heads, it was just gonna be like kind of weird to switch it because we have to like drop our goal. So we'd have to like turn, drop our goal, grab the goal out of the corner, then grab the other goal, put it in. It just would be kind of weird. So we weren't
yeah.
thinking it was worth it because we had like in this situation, like you can see our opponents don't even have a filled goal there for blue, and then they're filling up a second one, while
And,
we
Yeah.
and
have 3 goals.
that one in the positive for blue that only has like what 3 rings on it, something like that. So we're like, okay,
Yeah,
we kind of like just looking at the field, we kind of thought we were up, I guess. Another thing here, like Tyler dropped the rings when he was going for wall stake, um, and that's just because he kind of like got close and then just became careful because he didn't want to drop them out of the field because we each had 2 violations on that already, and the
Oh,
fourth
I
one is
see.
the fourth one's a DQ. I guess what else? Um, Yeah, I think we just kind of played it safe because we didn't want to DQ or anything. And the other interesting thing about this match was that our partners disconnected also for about 15 seconds in the middle.
our
Um,
opponents.
yeah, sorry, our opponents. So we also,
Oh,
like,
like
I
here.
remember,
Yeah, yeah. I see they're disconnected right here.
yeah. So you can see there's a point at which Tyler turns to us and he just goes, "It's going to be a replay." So I think we were a little bit confused as to what was happening too, because we figured like, look, we didn't run an Auton and they DC'd for a decent amount of time too, so we were pretty confused as to what was going on. Um,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing here, and if you do the points analysis on this too, is had we gotten that other wall stake, um, obviously that's -3 for them, and then had we scored 2 on there, or sorry, -2 for them because they're not having the top ring anymore, and then that's +4 for us. So it ends up being um
You guys winning, right?
35, 33, yeah, for us, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like I guess the takeaway for this match is just to always like even if you're like a really high seed playing into the R16 match and you're like worried about like the next matches, right? I feel like always to just focus on like what's like ahead, right? And I heard Ben also talk about that in his like after his spin up season, right? He had this video and he was saying that like just just lock in on what's ahead and don't worry about like the further matches. Don't worry about playing against like whoever you think that might actually like beat you, right? Just lock in on what's ahead, and then right you'll like make it further.
Yeah, I agree. I think another thing we could have tried to do, though, which would have been pretty easy, because they can't defend us while we're doing this, is score the alliance stake. Um, just because that's an easy 3 points, right? Like our auto was supposed to do that, so we didn't even think to try and do that at the start of the match. We're just like, all right, just rush the goals.
Yeah.
So try that. Um,
And
besides
nobody.
that,
Mhm.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, nobody even touched this like just this third goal here towards like until a minute. So I feel like
Yeah, I think if the other team started going for it, we told Jacob to just come to the corner and we would go get that. Like kind of what we did with the swap, but we would have done it a little bit earlier had they tried to go get that. Um I I think another thing we talked about before the match was like a lot of teams with that third goal, rather than filling it up with their own color, they would try and fill it up with the other color and put in the negative. Um and one of the things we realized throughout the tournament was that's pretty dangerous to do, right? Because it's the same amount of points to fill up your goal with positive, or your goal with your rings, as to fill up the other team's rings and then put in the negative.
yeah,
But if you fill up your goal and then just let go of it at the end of the match, that's the same amount of points, and there's no risk involved with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, do you guys think you guys could have beat like the Bark bots and like whoever won?
I think it would be close, but I think we would have the stronger autonomous, and we would kind of be mostly uncontested on wall stakes. Like at least they can't. I mean, they can defend us, but they can't score them. So I
Yeah,
think we'd
that,
have a lot of advantages that I think we probably could take it,
yeah.
but
I
you
think
never know.
purely based on wall stakes, that's 8 points there that we can score that the other team just has no opportunity to at all. Um, like
Yeah.
assuming that we
Hmm.
get 2 rings on each one.
And also, like, I was
Um,
wondering why, like, I mean, Ace here isn't really like scoring just like two at a time. You guys are just opting to go always one at a time.
yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about
Yeah.
that.
It was just mainly because top ring, like getting the second ring, like it's nice to get that extra point, but at the same time you have to go find a second ring, and it is also just a little bit riskier for like it's another ring that could go out of the field,
Yeah,
which like just kind of stacks up. So like we just kind of for most of the tournament we're just going for one at a time, just because it was a little bit easier to line up, a little bit less risky, and didn't take as long to do. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
see. Mhm.
Plus, it's the same points as scoring as just scoring another one on the Mogo, which is just a lot easier to do in general.
yeah,
Um, I think especially because you guys had that claw, right? Like, and you guys couldn't pick up. It was harder to pick up with that claw than with the intake, obviously.
yeah,
And yeah, I think one of the interesting things about this match too was we only left 2 rings on the field.
yeah,
You see, there's those. Well, I guess we left 4
yeah. You
because we ended
dropped
up
two.
dropping
Yeah.
this. Yeah. Um,
So there really
one
isn't
of the
that
things.
many like rings, like in play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's not. There's enough to fill
That.
up 4 stakes.
Yeah. And then after that, it's kind of hard. To like find any, or it's impossible to find any. I guess the other thing we could have done is at the end, once we dropped those rings, or once we realized we weren't going for them, we kind of just sat there. I think we should have tried to block the hang at least. Um, or like defend that other team into at least pushing it into, like, defend the one on the top into pushing that into the negative, or just not being able to drop their goal, because
This one
one
right
of the
here.
big things that, like, yeah, so like instead of going around the corner, had we just sat on them, right, they might not have the opportunity to drop their goal, which means that they would have been touching all those rings, which was
Yeah,
a big thing at Mall, kind of like tipping point at Worlds, where there was a lot of teams that were just touching rings on their mobile goal and would lose the match because of that. Um,
Yeah,
at
cause
Mall, there was a lot of times where you would be touching the rings at the end of the match, and those wouldn't count, or where you'd be touching them at the end of Auton, and those wouldn't count either. Meaning that there was a lot of teams that like did the task to get the win point, but just didn't actually get it because they were touching rings.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
mean,
that
like,
happened in one of our friendships.
so I mean, like this
Our
season's all
teammate was
about the
touching.
rings, right? Because like the goals aren't actually worth anything. So like, what do you think about like is there any like possible designs for like a back clamp that could be really like effective that makes it so you won't touch the rings, like even if you have it, like if you have the clamp activated?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure you could. Yeah, just
I think that was one of the big advantages of having both tilt and clamp on our bot. Was that we could end auton with the goal still clamped on the robot, but just not tilted in. Um, Especially because after you like if you're scoring rings on that mogo and you have it tilted in and then you tilt it down, when you tilt it down, that downward pressure from the pistons kind of moves the rings towards the back of the mogo, which means that you're not actually touching them.
Okay, yeah, that's really smart. I really like that design where like you would have both that of the abilities there.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I think that's, I mean, about it for today. Thank you for joining me today.
yep.
anytime, Luke.
All right, thank you.